Welcome on in to the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah Insider, KSL Sports. That's Cam Beck. That's Tyson Mall, rocking a mean old mustache. Just the meanest mustache you've ever seen. Tyson, dude.
I'm dying.
How's that mustache?
The last thing you said before we started was, they all want that mustache. Pause. Just kidding. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, that's the big news. Start this one.
Do him like that on the cold open. No, it's a fantastic mustache. Truly,
it is. It really is.
Great. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
This is a great start to this podcast. Breaking news: Andy Ludwig has resigned from his role as offensive coordinator at the University of Utah.
So we're going to be talking about Tyson's mustache.
Yeah, we're just going to talk about Tyson's mustache.
It's worth asking if had the mustache been here sooner, if Ludwig had been gone sooner. It's on
Ludwig.
Me, guys.
People,
I'm sorry.
People are
that
asking.
Was on me.
The people are asking.
Cam, Tyson, we were all texting before, probably around 6:30, 7 o'clock, just kind of putting the show plan together. Not a peep as to what was going on. And then about 7:30, buzz started to hit the phone, and here we are. 7:50 thereabout. News went out, broke the news. Andy Ludwig has officially resigned from his post at the University of Utah. He, pretty tough conclusion to his tenure, because there were some really great years, but obviously with the way that this season has gone and these last three games in particular, you can't average 14 points a game, and expect to hang on to a job like that as offensive coordinator. So the other news that hasn't been made official just yet, I kind of anticipate this being talked about, announced by Kyle Whittingham tomorrow at his press conference, but the word I've gotten is that Mike Bajakian will be elevated from analyst to now passing game coordinator and play caller, and Jim Harding will continue in his role as run game coordinator and kind of help with the game planning and offensive preparation and all that. So obviously big news, but something that I think everybody was almost, I don't want to say anticipating, because there was still a lot of disbelief and doubt that Kyle Whittingham would do it. I shouldn't say do it, but that change would come. And I think this is, pretty telling of just how bad things have been for Utah to make a midseason change. This wasn't the only coaching change this weekend. Oklahoma fired their offensive coordinator. A couple other coaches got the axe today. So, this was the weekend to do it, it seems. And Ludwig's tenure comes to, kind of similarly, an unceremonious end at Utah, which is tough. So, fellas, what are your thoughts, on the news and just instant takeaways?
So many thoughts. I think watching that game last night, I even tweeted about this. It's because Ludwig has such a long, and rich and really successful history at Utah in two different stints. I tweeted something along the lines of, I can't really believe I'm saying this, but Andy Ludwig can't have a job on Monday. After that performance, that is not a good TCU defense whatsoever.
No.
Nor is that a very good Arizona State or Arizona defense, 3 weeks in a row. And the Arizona one's probably the best of the three, I guess I'll say. But the performance on Saturday night against TCU at home, 7 points, and 7 points that easily could have not been scored, frankly. One play that got you those 7 points. It could have easily been a goose egg. Probably one of the worst offensive games I've seen out of Utah that wasn't caused by some sort of weather or personnel disaster. I think that it had to be done, though. It's unfortunate how it happened. So, like you mentioned, kind of an unceremonious end for Andy Ludwig, the guy who, helped Utah win the Sugar Bowl, and the guy who helped Utah win 2 Pac-12 championships, and who has been responsible for probably the 2 best offensive eras in Utah's history. This kind of fall from grace is unfortunate, but you simply can't have the type of performance that you saw from Utah's offense at that level. And again, if this were, if it were, and we'll get into this more, but if this was clearly players underperforming or clearly a roster issue, it might be a different story. But I think from watching the past 3 weeks, that's not the story of why this offense has been struggling.
It's really sad. So again, the guy who brought Utah's Sugar Bowl win. I mean, the absolute masterclass of a game of play calling against Alabama Sugar Bowl. And then he leaves, he goes coaches other places and then comes back and we get, the two Pac-12 championship years. Again, one of the best offenses in the country, just everything firing on all cylinders. To see that in 2 years, come down to scoring 7 points against a very, very bad TCU defense. It's really sad. And again, I'll always love Andy Ludwig for that that Sugar Bowl win and the Pac-12 championships. But like Kemp said, like you can't only score 7 points against that defense and keep your job. Again,
right.
Purely, could play have been better from the players? Probably, but they were put in some really bad situations, like all of them, and you can tell it was just wearing on them all game. And they just as a Power 4 football program, that can't happen. You can't have those games.
Mekhi Bernard can only do so much.
Yeah.
The guy, and credit to him, like, once again, another week where it's just like, what would this offense do without Mekhi Bernard? Like, they would simply do nothing. They damn near did nothing with him. And it's so much of it is just because, again, we've talked about it before a couple weeks ago. It's like when the fans watching at home know the plays that are coming because it's one of 7 that you see at any given time. It's like these teams know what's coming. These teams know what Utah's going to run. And there's just simply no creativity. There's no variation. Like, the little bit of variation we do see are plays we've already seen, like these repetitive motions. Like, I'm thinking of things like this Keithy backfield motion to running power, like from the motion position. It's just like, you can't keep running out these tricks, like, especially when they don't work that well the first time. It's very, I don't know.
And you don't run anything different out of them.
You don't have a counter
comes
off
into
of it.
That, he goes you don't run anything different. Like, it's
run a play action off of it. Like, the fact that you're running that same play, in consecutive weeks without giving a different look, it's just, that's not great. And I think, gosh, it genuinely felt, so I was on the phone a long time last night. I didn't get to bed till 4 a.m. just being on the phone with different folks. It was nuts. It genuinely feels like the game has sort of passed Ludwig by, unfortunately, which is kind of wild to say, given what we've seen in the 5 years since he, joined the program in 2019. You think of that 2019 season, right? Tyler Huntley wasn't Tyler Huntley until 2019. The leap that he made from 2018 to 2019, we were putting together a Heisman campaign midway through the season for Tyler Huntley. Like, that's the impact Andy Ludwig had, the instant impact. And 2021, 2022, two of the most efficient and explosive and prolific offenses we've seen at Utah with Cam Rising and the options that he had around him. It felt like Utah could do no wrong. To go from that, as you were talking about, Tyson, to go from that, right, to see the instant impact that he had on a player like Tyler Huntley, to elevate the offense to some of its most prolific marks in history, and then to be where it is now, where it's just like, it's beyond predictable. Most people can identify when a run is coming, when a pass is coming, You better believe that opposing coaches know what that run is likely going to be, what direction it is likely going, what gap it's likely to hit, and that is the level of predictability that Utah has been in the last 3 weeks. It's become stale, it's become predictable, and the lack of creativity has just it's bogged this offense down to what it is, to where you're punting 11 times in the game and you cross the TCU 50, I think once in.
More punts than first downs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was tough.
And it starts to, like, because of what we see, because of how bad the offense has been, again, amidst a we keep saying this, and I feel like fans probably think we're gaslighting them at this point because of the record and the play that they're seeing on the field. But this is Utah's most talented roster. Like, it's hard to I mean, Cam
Yeah.
Rising now, for all intents and purposes, not part of the roster. It changes that dramatically, but like on paper, this offense is ridiculously talented, and so it starts to raise questions that we've always kind of just taken for granted what the answers were, and things like we've said for years. Utah has, whether we've said it maybe on broadcast or just in other forums or privately amongst ourselves, like Utah's had a problem for years about receivers just getting open, guys creating space.
Yeah.
And Utah now has guys who we've seen at other places who can get open and guys who can find that space. And so when it's not a personnel issue, it starts to beg the question of, like, then is it a scheme issue? Do we simply not know how to get guys open? Do we not have a scheme that gets people open? And like, I think, again, when you watch, I think it's fair, like, to be critical of even how Isaac Wilson played last night.
Yeah.
Because he made some mistakes. He didn't play a perfect game by any means. But he's being asked to make throws in scenarios where guys simply aren't open. And like, it's one thing if he's missing open players, which he did miss a couple of open guys. But so many of the throws that he's making, like, I think so much of those comeback routes to the sideline where he's throwing to guys and they're having to stretch for him a couple yards out of bounds. And it's like, yeah, it's because they've got a guy draped on him inbounds. That's where he has to throw this ball. And you see plays to like Dorian Singer. Dorian Singer had the long catch down the sideline where, like, he almost, frankly, like, shook that guy off and could have run for a touchdown.
Yeah.
With a little bit of luck. And like, maybe all of this gets, postponed another week if something like that happens. But like, again, a guy who is very good at getting open, a guy who we've seen do incredible things with other offenses, has guys just draped over him. And it's just like, at a certain point, you have to ask, like, why aren't we doing enough to find opportunities for these guys? Like, why isn't Dorian Singer getting 10 touches a game?
Right.
Like, that should be a focus. He's probably your most talented player on your offense. How are we not finding ways to get him the ball 10 times? Like, not even 10 targets. He should be getting 10 receptions a game. And Utah's not even looking for him that many times.
It just, last night especially, it just felt like Utah had to work so much harder for 2 to 3 yard gains. Like, Isaac Wilson is being asked to throw 20 yards across the field on a speed out that gains 3 yards. And it's just like, why are we, and it's just that encapsulates just the overall feel of the offense, where it just feels like Utah is making it so much harder on themselves because they're so predictable. They want to get people into a phone booth and then out physical them. But it's like, it doesn't need to be this hard. It doesn't have to be this complicated. Production doesn't need to be this difficult to come by. There are easy buttons. There are easy ways to generate offense and to move the ball. And it just feels like it became a foreign concept. It felt like, Andy, it just felt like Ludwig kind of fell out of touch with this team and with this roster, the personnel, whatever he seemed to dial up, just there was nothing. There was, Isaac struggled to find options, and credit to TCU because they took away a lot of those options a lot of the time. And again, it just comes back to the predictability of the offense, and it's not just centered around the run game. It's also extends into the passing game and the route structures, and when you see certain formations, whether it's bunch or out wide trips out, spread out, you defenses kind of understand what is coming there too. And so it's just things like that where the offense just became too predictable and not enough creativity to counter that predictability. So it's tough.
Well, and then on top of that, I mean, you're putting Isaac in a really bad spot because how many of these play calls, especially last night, were late developing routes. You got guys running 10 to 20 yards down the field before they're breaking off routes for a freshman quarterback who's getting blitzed almost every single play. Like, you need to be running quick crossers and just let Isaac, wherever the blitz is coming from, there's where you're looking, because there's free space right there that just got vacated by a guy sprinting towards you. Like, you got to make these, you just get guys in open space. The number one thing I've been impressed by, I mean, we know Dorian Singer from his time at Arizona, and I guess a little bit at USC, not really, but he is so good once you get him in the open field.
Oh yeah.
If you get him running across a formation, across the field, and you get him the ball and he has 5 yards of space on either side of him, he's going to make good things happen. We've seen that all year. And I don't think he had one of those plays. I think maybe they threw him a screen, but it's really hard. Tunnel, little wide receiver screens coming back into the field. Those are really hard to get space and to make something happen out of. Obviously you can, but it's not the same as coming across the field, 5-10 yards deep and getting the ball in stride and being able to make guys miss. That's where you need to get Dorian the ball. Cam said 10 times a game, and they're just not even calling anything remotely close to that. Money's the same way. Money plays in that role very well too, coming across, getting open, clean breaks off of routes and just coming across the field, and he's wide open. I saw that a ton against Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Just never got the ball.
Well, this sort of speaks to some of the root issues, I guess, and part of this is Ludwig. Part of this, I think, too, is Whittingham. I think that there's I don't want to say a fear of throwing over the middle, but there's certainly a lot more caution with throwing over the middle, particularly with a freshman quarterback, leading the team right now. Dallin Bentley, game after game, just continues to find himself wide open in the middle of the field, and he barely gets looked at. It's not just Dallin Bentley over the middle. There are, as you said, money on crossers and other guys on crossers outside of Brent and Dorian who are just going to get that extra attention. When there are guys over the middle, they're often running open because defenses have picked up on Utah's unwillingness to throw directly over the middle. And so they're just shading to the outside. And if you're not going to, access every part of the field, you're just creating additional restrictions and again, making it more difficult than it needs to be. You need to keep every part of the field open to you and accessible to the passing game. It's the same thing with the run game, right? So much of the run game, and they've run different concepts, whether it's inside zone, whether it's counter or power, duo, different blocking schemes, but it's always inside, right? It's always right at the defense. Mix it up, run it outside, get an outside zone, get an outside track type of run. Do more of that where you're keeping the defense on its toes and keeping it honest, right? It just becomes repetitive and you come conditioned to where the ball is going, right? And it just, it just became more difficult than it ever needed to be. And again, I've repeated it 3 times, just the lack of, willingness to do different things, to be creative, to, counterpunch essentially. So with that, Ludwig resigning, obviously I think everybody kind of understands, like, hey, this had to happen, right? And again, as I mentioned earlier, it does sound like Mike Bajakian is going to be elevated to offensive coordinator. We've kind of already talked about some of the issues that have plagued the offense, but what other things are we going to be looking for with this offense in terms of what can help this offense, what can help unlock this offense? With Bajakian taking over. I think Bajakian has a lengthy history. He's coached a lot of football at the college and NFL level, so it's good. He's seen a lot of football. He's coached a lot of good players, and that's going to benefit him. Obviously, his coming from Northwestern, and obviously the lack of offensive success there is certainly something to take into consideration. But this is a guy that's coached a lot of football, had a lot of success, at various stops. And so what do we need to see from the offense moving forward?
I mean, he beat Utah as offensive coordinator. I don't know. Like, it's not
That's
something a ton of teams can say from, 2021 to 2020. I mean, but seriously, like, I think that your point is well taken. Like, no, it's not like we're bringing in we're not bringing in Chip Kelly to relieve
just a completely
Andy
different.
Ludwig.
Yeah.
It's going to be somebody who's, again, has experience. It's somebody who's already familiar with the program, hopefully can step in very quickly. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect next week for Utah to put up 42 points and run away. There's going to be some adjustment. There's going to be a learning curve. But Northwestern also, he was at Northwestern calling plays for them pretty much during their peak as a football program. As Pat Fitzgerald's program was really coming into its own and turning into as good of a program as they've ever been. I think there's something to be said about that. You want to talk about the challenges the teams like Utah have getting recruits, like Northwestern has some challenges getting recruits. You want to talk about like fan bases maybe not caring too much about football. Northwestern has that kind of a problem. And like, so yeah, they overachieved while he was offensive coordinator. I think there's some optimism to be had in that, despite, maybe Northwestern not jumping off the resume as an offensive powerhouse. He was there while Northwestern was pretty much peaking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The thing I want to, I guess, at least caution everybody, as much as like we know we need this change. Mike Bajakian has been in the program for less time than Isaac Wilson. I just want to throw that out there now. Isaac's been in the program longer than Bajakian, so Bajakian's got less time with this playbook than Isaac does. And I'm not saying that to poo-poo on this. What I'm saying is this is not going to be a drastically different offense. He can't install his own things. It's still Ludwig's offense. The only difference is Bajakian is now calling the plays.
Yes.
You know what? And I think that's fine. Like, we've seen good things from this offense. Like, we've seen that this offense doesn't have to be 6 plays that are run on repeat. Like, I think there are gems there. Like, there are opportunities. I obviously can't speak to what the reluctance to call some of those things are, but maybe Bajakian has some kind of he's got a clean slate in the sense of, he is new. Perhaps he doesn't have some of the concerns or biases or even, like, frankly, the fear that some offensive coordinators and things might have under Kyle Whittingham, who is notoriously hard on those guys in terms of, like, your most important job is not to mess this up. And like, if he also has a little bit of a leash, like a longer leash now, because it's just like, hey, this is what it is now. Nobody's expecting you to go out and win the conference. Go do something. Go make this offense exciting or something again. Like, maybe there's an opportunity to be like, hey, Ludwig didn't think Wilson or the offense was ready for these plays yet. I do. Let's go.
Yeah. Like I do think
sure.
like that is, it's important that there is still continuity, right? You can't completely overhaul your offensive scheme, your playbook mid-season with collegiate athletes, with pros. Like, the continuity, having the same playbook, and knowing what we've seen in that, I think it is important to keep in mind, Tyson. That's, this is going to look, pretty similar to what we've seen. It's just, again, with the way the season has gone, it just felt like Ludwig was out of touch, was lost his feel for this team, for the flow, for everything, right? Like, I do think keeping the playbook while getting a fresh set of eyes, a fresh mind, and a fresh voice can be kind of the thing here to help unlock this Utah offense. And it's interesting when you go through Mike Bajakian's history, he's actually been through something very similar like this when he was at Tennessee. Vols 2014 season ended finished 7-6, but Josh Dobbs, a true freshman who is now in the NFL, took over midway through the year, and he finished the season winning 4 of 6 games, had a couple of really outstanding performances. I'm looking at PFF right now. He had a game with a 92.0 grade, which is elite. That came against Kentucky. So, I mean, take that for granted. Iowa, being what they are in a bowl game, he had a 83.4 grade. So, like, this thing is, Bajakian, it's interesting. Taking over midseason probably is foreign to him, but coming into a situation where a true freshman now has to lead your team is not. And that's why I brought up the Josh Dobbs situation, because he was a true freshman, Isaac being the true freshman. I think Bajakian, that will benefit him. I hope the potential is there. He understands, having been through it, how to get potentially a lot more out of the passing game with a true freshman, just having been through it with Josh Dobbs. So, it'll be interesting. But I do think with Bajakian and his offense, he is pretty RPO centered, loves the RPO, which I think suits Isaac Wilson's strengths in terms of what he did at Corner Canyon and just being in that spread, vertical passing attack with that inside zone with care there at Corner Canyon. That is familiar to him. And I think with Bajakian being in that RPO background and having that, I think can be something that can really benefit Isaac Wilson moving forward.
Well, and speaking of just benefiting Isaac Wilson, like, Bajakian in almost all of his offensive roles has also been a quarterback's coach. Like,
Yes.
Is reading down his resume, essentially. Like, it's quarterback's coach and passing game coordinator, graduate assistant, quarterback's coach, graduate assistant, quarterback's coach, offensive quality control coach, offensive coordinator and quarterback's coach, offensive coordinator and quarterback's coach, offensive coordinator and quarterback's coach, quarterback's coach. One at an NFL job, for what it's worth. Offensive coordinator and quarterback's coach, offensive coordinator and quarterback's coach, and now, more or less an interim role of both of those things. Like, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for him to get immediately involved with Wilson and potentially, really give a lot of insight and he's had a lot of varied perspective from a lot of different levels of college football, 2 stints in the NFL. I think that there's, again, take all of it with such a grain of salt, because we're going into week 8 or week 9 of the college football season. And so, like, there's only so much you can do right now. Offenses are installed. The most you learn is in spring and fall. And so, like, there might be little tweaks, there might be things here and there, but it's hopefully somewhere where you can start to build off of, the ashes that we've seen this offense become.
I think one of the biggest things that I think about it, I'll be interested to see is whether Bajakian goes up into the booth or if he stays down the field. One thing I think good thing he has going for him is I don't think I've seen one, cut to the sideline to show Isaac Wilson this season that hasn't involved a shiny bald head, right? Basically right in his ear.
Yeah.
You do not see Isaac Wilson on the sideline without Mike Bajakian literally right next to him, talking to him. And I think that gives me a little bit more confidence in what he's going to do. Cause like you said, I think that's another one of the big reasons why he's getting, called up to play caller and not Harding, is because he has a very close relationship with Isaac already. He's, again, right next to him every single time he's off the field. He's in his ear. He's going over everything. They're on the iPads together. I think that's going to be a really good benefit to him as a play caller going forward. So I'm interested to see if he's going to be on the sideline. So if he can continue doing that when Isaac comes off the field, when they go on defense, or if he's going to be up in the booth.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And to your point again, just to kind of clarify and add context to it, right? So Mike Bajakian was brought in as an analyst. Then the NCAA made some rule changes, extending the number of coaches. Basically, anybody that has a role on staff can essentially assist in on-field coaching, which allowed Bajakian to essentially serve as the quarterback's coach for Utah. And with throughout the offseason and throughout the season, Bajakian has developed a really good relationship. And that was talked about before. I think early on this season, somebody mentioned it, that there was a really good relationship between those two. And I think that is absolutely a reason why Bajakian seems to be getting the nod as the play caller. Jim Harding is still going to be play an important role in organizing the offense, getting the run game, and he'll be somebody that Bajakian needs to lean on, just to kind of keep that continuity and all that. But I do think, again, just given the relationship with Isaac, his background as a quarterback coach, sort of his offensive philosophy being centered in the RPO and the option looks type stuff, I think those are things that should benefit Wilson and the offense, and give it things to build on, right? Give it things to just create those easy access, those easy plays, easy production in both the run game and the passing game. Like, that's what this offense needs. It just needs more easy plays, easy buttons in the offense, and I think Bajakian can provide that with his option and just offense in how he operates. He's he going back through his history, heavy shotgun type of stuff. He'll get in the pistol. He'll utilize that. It'll be interesting to see how much that shifts with Wilson, whether they do lean more into the spread option, not spread option, but the spread attack compared to the under center stuff, right? Which we've seen with Ludwig. So that is something that I'm interested in, is how much does this shift to more of a spread type offense with Wilson and Bajakian. So, it's certainly a lot to learn over the next week. And the nice thing here is, you've got Houston this week, which is a winnable game. All things considered, still winnable. And then you get into a bye week, which kind of allow you to hit the reset button and establish more of your own identity. And I think it just it made a lot of sense to do this and do it now, to at least give yourself a chance to turn this thing around, because it was just clear that it wasn't going to happen with Ludwig continuing to lead the offense. Utah had to make a change, and or needed a change, and Ludwig was kind enough to step down.
What a nice guy.
What a nice guy.
What's going to happen if Bajakian calls 3 straight inside zones to?
Oh my gosh! Just first
as
series.
tribute to Andy Ludwig.
It's like, all right, everybody, We're gonna do this for Andy. It's gonna quick 3 and out and put this thing away.
They cut to him in the booth, and he's just pouring out a bottle of water. Just pour one out. Oh my goodness! Just inside zone.
And I think
right, get out there, Jack Bomeister.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just the first inside zone on first down, punt on second down. I think, and I'm already seeing senses of this. We're now an hour and a half removed from this really breaking, and I'm already seeing that, at least within the fan base, that it's, again, you don't have to be the diehard or even really know ball all that well to have watched that game on Saturday and to have some idea of like, there has to be a change. Something dramatic needs to happen to this team. The roster really wasn't the problem. Something had to happen with the coaching staff, and it has. And you're already seeing fans who are kind of revitalized by this change. And I almost hate to bring this up because I certainly don't want to give the impression that I was happy about this happening or that I somehow cosmically got involved. But I said last week, if it takes a loss for things to start being fun again, like that's what needs to happen. And like, if this is what happened to get fans engaged again and get people like, then it's just another reason why this had to happen. Is like the amount of just pessimism and apathy after that game, and for the 24 hours after this game, like, I guess we didn't quite make it to 24 hours, but the 22 hours or so after this game ended, like, it is pretty as low as I've seen a lot of this fan base be, and as much pessimism as I've seen. And again, just the fresh start with little to no expectations is, I think, something that maybe this whole team and this fan base really need right now, to just say like, hey, we know that there was a problem. Frankly, there's no perfect fix for this problem yet, but let's go try something new. Yeah. And like, that is enough to, I think, get people excited about the upcoming game and the rest of the season, of just like, which is, quite frankly, without like chaos we've never seen before. Season's not over. There are other games to be played and good reasons but like, you're not going to the Big 12 championship game anymore. Right. And like, so
now you can play play a different role of spoiler, right? Like, you could take on that role and ruin other people's seasons.
What I'm saying is, Utah, embrace the hater mentality. It's time.
Find your frauds.
It's not about winning. It's about everyone else losing.
It is now time
bring them down in the mud with you.
It is now time for Utah to be the team that makes everybody call the other teams frauds. Just because they lost to Utah this year.
It's not, man. We don't want to win. We want you to lose. That's what we're exactly do. We're here for Houston to lose, and then we're here for BYU to lose,
and then the bye week to lose. Everybody is losing.
Lose.
It's interesting. Oh, go ahead, Tyson. Go ahead.
I would say, Cam, you said it best, though. I mean, like, again, the goals that Utah football had at the beginning of the season was a Big 12 championship and go to the playoff. That's basically out of reach at this point. Who cares now? Like, just, try and have fun, make stuff happen. If Isaac throws a couple picks or something, whatever, like, at least you're trying. So as long as you're trying something different, and then, if that starts to work, like it sounds bad to say it that way. Like, right after I said that, I was like, that sounded terrible.
No, but I'm in.
Like, who cares if you're trying some stuff and he happens, he turned it over a couple of times, but you also score 3 touchdowns. Who cares?
Yeah, we're just sick of punting.
Something new.
We're just sick of punting.
Throws 6 interceptions against UCLA, and we barely blinked. Like, let Isaac go have one of those games. Like, let him, throw a bunch of balls across the middle. We hear there are guys open over there. Like, just see what, like, if they get intercepted,
crazy.
Like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter anymore. Just go out there and sling the ball around. Go have some fun and like
call some birds, man.
God forbid, maybe get some points in the meantime.
Yeah, score some points, please.
God.
It was interesting. So you brought up just kind of the frustration and gloominess, just kind of the exhaustion, I guess, would be a good word, right? Of just tired of these offensive performances, just kind of the struggle, just all the frustrations that have come with an Andy Ludwig offense over the last couple of years, right? I think this has allowed the fan base to kind of, re-engage, get some excitement. We don't know what Bajakian is going to be. Again, we said he is not Chip Kelly, and I can confirm he is not Chip Kelly. He is, but there's still excitement over seeing what this could be. And it's interesting coming off of last week with what happened with Cam, and I was talking with somebody at the game, and this is not Cam's fault. It's just the situation that we were all in, that everybody was in. But I do think there was just a lot of exhaustion over the situation, with the injury situation, right? It just being what it was. Is Cam going to play? Is he not going to play? Has he made progress? Is he ready to come back for UCLA? Is he not coming back for UCLA? Is he going to be ready? Is he taking the reps? Just, we got a lot of those texts. You can imagine what players and other staff members are also, they're getting those texts as well. They're trying to get, they're getting people trying to get that information from them as well. And I just think, there's been this sort of the turning of the page last week with the quarterback position, essentially with Cam out for the season. It's eliminated that. It's, all focus has been on Isaac Wilson this week now, with offensive coordinator Andy Ludwig resigning. Again, another turning of the page for Utah football. It's just kind of interesting how that seems to be trending. And, it's depending on how the rest of the season goes, we'll see what comes. But I think the fan base, with what they've been through over the last couple of years, I think I think these last 2 weeks have brought, what's the word? Not peace, but I guess, what's a good word to describe it?
I think peace is good. I think it's like,
Is peace good?
In the sense of like, it's like we've gotten to relax almost. We've gotten to like unclench our collective jaw over all of this. And like, I think like something that, and maybe this is just a Whittingham thing, and we're just now kind of getting to see it all in 20 years of hindsight. But like, Utah football, with some rare exceptions, is not an easy team to be a fan of at times. Like, most Utah games are hard to watch, frankly. Like, they're a slog. And so like, after doing this for, especially with Andy Ludwig, even if we want to just tighten it down to the Andy Ludwig era, like, there are a lot of Utah games that are simply work. I think exhausted is a really good way to put this, to kind of characterize how this fan base has been feeling, because like, games are very rarely something where Utah fans get to just sit back and celebrate and watch their team go out and do fun things for 60 minutes on the field. It's usually just like, well, what fresh hell awaits us for the 52 minutes before this game is
only
like
one touchdown in the first quarter? What the hell are we doing?
Yeah. Well, but even outside of the high expectations, and like it's very often that Utah gets themselves into situations where it's just like a game feels within reach all the time. Yeah. And that a game is a player two away all the time. And part of that is just having high expectations, expecting to win most games and playing good teams, and that just being the natural course of games. But part of that is also just, I think, Whittingham's brand of football and this offense's kind of brand of football. And so like, having all of that compounded by what's going on off the field, where now fans don't even get relief from that feeling from Sunday through Friday, because now it's like, forget the 60 minutes of stress on the field, what's even happening with the players and the personnel and all of this off the field for the 6 games and with 6 days in between? Like, it's been a very long, hard 2 years to be a Utah football fan. And so, like, if this is the moment where you can finally, do some deep couch sitting and watch a Utah game and turn a Utah game on with the expectation of having a good
expectation.
time.
Yeah,
like,
no expectation. Just like
that's what I mean.
To see something different.
Saturday, turn on the game and let your only expectation be, I'm going to have fun today. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I feel like has been missing from this fan base for 2 years.
Yes. I think you're spot on with that. Like, yeah, it's been a difficult grind. And, the fan base has just hit that point where I feel like these last 2 weeks with Ludwig resigning, with Cam, the injury saga just coming to a conclusion, right? It's just allowed the fan base to kind of take that sigh of relief of letting go and, okay, we can move forward now. And I think that's a big thing for this fan base because it has been difficult. The expectations and all that, not living up to it's been difficult. And I think embracing more of that fun, more of just being entertaining and letting go of those expectations, I think is a good thing for the fan base moving forward. Let's see here. With that, anything else from the game or from this weekend that we need to address?
I've got one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have been way too hard on this defense.
Holy smokes.
Have they been perfect? No. Have they been even to the A level you might expect from Utah defense because of previous years or anything? Like, also probably no. But the idea that this defense is doing anything but B plus or better every single game is out of, like, if you watched that game or other games this year and you're like, the defense is the problem. Like,
yes.
What game are you watching?
What are you watching?
Yeah. You need to turn up, change some setting on your television because something's wrong. Because, like, what, again, in hindsight now, like, what this defense is doing compared to what they're getting from the offense is absolutely ridiculous. Like, watching on Saturday, holding, again, like, sure, they gave up some yards, they gave up some drives, they got lucky a couple of times, but they're doing their job of keeping teams out of the end zone. Giving up 13 points to that team is pretty good because we know that offense is pretty good. Giving up 13 points to that team when your offense just refuses to be on the football field is absolutely ridiculous. And like, they were truly the only bright spot in that game. And like, they're as much as complaining, and it probably just speaks to the high standards we've had for this defense for so many years. Like, they even showed on the football broadcast on third down. They're just like, this is one of the best defenses in the country on third down. 5th best in the nation at getting teams off the field on third down. 1st best in the Big 12 at getting teams off the field on third down. Like, we need to not forget that. Like, this defense is in so many ways truly elite, even if, if the offense doesn't give them any support to make it look like it. Like, it's just, we need to put some more respect on this defense's name because they are, again, not perfect, but the only reason Utah is not getting boat raced in every football game they're playing.
16 points a game.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Unbelievable. That has to be good enough.
TCU is averaging 30, what did you say?
35.
35?
35.
They scored 13.
That has to be enough. Like, I don't care. At home? It has to be enough. Yeah, at home, it has to be enough. Like, there's no, that was, the defense owns very little blame, if any blame, for the loss last night.
And to do this, the thing I keep coming back to, like, we know Utah's game is ball control.
Yep.
Which again is lends itself to being very good on defense, is because your defense is getting a lot of time to recover. This is what happened last night. This is how many plays Utah ran before their defense went back onto the field in the first half. 3,
oh no,
4, 5, 3, 3, 7. Those are Utah's drives in the first half. Second half, 3-3-3. They scored a touchdown on that third one, but still 3, 4, 5, 7, 5. They did not have a single drive of over 7 plays in the whole game. And
Crazy.
Utah and their defense still held TCU to 13 points. That's absurd.
They forced 8 punts, 8 TCU punts. Like, we're complaining about the 11 punts that Utah had and how difficult it was for Utah's offense. TCU punted 8 times still. Like, the defense was playing well, and sure, like, TCU missed some opportunity. Utah missed how many opportunities? Like, it all. Yes, the defense is playing really, really well. And yes, there are opportunities that they've missed to secure interceptions, to potentially get a sack. There have been missed tackles, and all of that contributes to
it's football.
Still, they're playing efficient defense, and it's crazy. Like, crazy.
I'm so tired of every time another team picks up a third down conversion, seeing fans lose their mind. Like, third and Scally will be the death of me, because I'm just like, he is genuinely phenomenal at this. There are so many stats to back up that your disdain for Scally on third down is not only just wrong, it is spectacularly wrong. Like, I'm begging you to watch more college football, because other teams just pick up third downs. It's just like, third down, that's just the play where we turn it back to first down. And like, that doesn't happen that often against Utah. Like, maybe it, again, if you're watching the NFL, that's a different story. Every NFL game is the worst Big Ten game you've ever seen. And so, like, teams are punting all the time and nobody scores. Like, that's just not how college football works. Like, I don't know. I had to get something in about the defense, because like, I saw people,
I'm glad you did.
Especially on Twitter, talking about like how disappointed they were in the defense and Morgan Scally. And I'm just like, I don't feel like we're watching the same sport sometimes.
We're not. We're absolutely not. It's insane that people can come away and criticize the defense for their effort last night. Just insane. I don't remember what. That's not to say they're playing perfect. They certainly have things they need to improve on. We'd love to see, plays, havoc plays, whatever. But this is still a defense that is limiting opponents to season lows in scoring on a pretty consistent basis this season.
Which is injured as hell. Like, this defense is so banged up. Like, half the guys who played, so many guys played 40 snaps last night who are playing like on one leg. Like, it's
crazy.
I mean, Karenin, his first game back, like, played a pretty good game, but like, and then you've got Keanu playing again, coming back from injury. You're missing your probably best player on the defense in the middle of the field. I don't know. Obviously you've been missing your starting cornerback the whole season. This defense is so banged up, and still, if it's underperforming, it's only because we're grading them on a stupid curve that's unfair to them, and like, certainly unfair to them given what their counterparts are doing on the other side of the ball.
Yep.
I'll give credit to the defense for last night. There was, I don't know specifically what drive it was. But the one time the stadium actually felt like classic Rice Eccles, where it was loud. The defense, they were rocking back and forth. Safeties were going up and back. There was talking. There was blitzing. Like, that was the one time last night that I felt like I was watching a Utah football game again. The stadium was loud. The defenders were talking. There was a ton of movement, and it just felt like Utah football again. And thank you to the defense for that, because that was the one time all night that I actually felt good about watching that game.
Yep. Man, just crazy, and again, defense certainly has things that they can improve upon, but they're still playing at a good level, man. Don't take it for granted, because it could be so much worse. I love that West Coast sports that tweets out the stats every week posted the points allowed of all the West Coast teams, and there's Utah at the top. And then it's just like Oregon,
which, what are they ranked? Are they any good?
Yeah, it's just the laundry list of how much worse it could be. And there's Utah at the top, and it's just don't take it for granted, man. This defense is playing good stuff. It's doing good things. Man, what a crazy week. We should be learning. I think we should be learning, quite a bit about what to expect moving forward. I think tomorrow at Kyle or today, depending on when you listen to this, we're recording Sunday night, obviously. We should hopefully learn, some of maybe additional changes. Maybe we don't, because Kyle Whittingham is going to play it close to the vest. He gave us a piece of flesh with Ludwig, right? And he says that should suffice, you animals out there. And then play the rest close to the vest. We'll see. But obviously Utah needs to continue to make changes, needs to continue to, genuinely evaluate this team. Hopefully we'll see some personnel changes.
I'm glad it didn't happen this way. I'm glad we learned about Ludwig today. But how sweet would it have been? Just how great would it have been for the camera to pan up to the offensive coordinator booth on Saturday night against Houston, and it was just Bajakian up there and not Ludwig, and we're all just like, "What the hell?"
And just cherry on top is nobody said anything. So like,
right,
the TV truck still has the graphic Andy Ludwig, Utah offensive coordinator, come up on screen.
Or just Whittingham's just like, yeah, we don't talk about coaching changes unless they're season ending. And
Papa Dakin's somewhere just throwing a fit. Yeah. Well, should be an interesting week. Obviously, Houston this week should give Utah an opportunity to right the ship this week, since they didn't get it this past weekend.
Eventually you win a get right game. So
eventually.
Whichever,
God,
fourth time's the charm.